Let's start getting into this.
All right. Three, two, one, and we are live.
Hey, welcome back to the Blue Collar Off-Road Podcast, episode 41. I'm Graham. I'm here with Cody, Luke, and Richie, as usual. And so we actually had some pretty exciting stuff going on last weekend, at least for me and Richie. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, Richie drove Luke's Jeep on up to me and Jacob's shop and, started taking a look at that and trying to plan how we're going to go about tackling that project, because our goal, and he doesn't think it's going to get happen, or he doesn't think it's going to be done in time, but our goal is to try to get the thing done before the beginning of September, because that is when our Roush trip roughly will be, and then he can figure out logistics on how to get up here so he can get it and tow it to Roush for our weekend in Roush.
Hopefully.
It does need a lot of work. It does need a lot of work.
Oh yeah,
So
I would be lying if I said it doesn't.
the first thing that I noted was it's almost entirely sheet metal work. There's not going to
Yep.
be, like, structural wise, everything's there. There's a couple pieces that need to be touched up. I know I was giving you shit for not welding those little ends of the tabs for the four link
Mm-hmm.
brackets, right? But, like, realistically, that's simple. You're just little bullshit that doesn't really matter in the short term. The majority of it is going to be figuring out those your wheel well arch tube pieces that you have cut that I still need to go get from Richie, and just figuring out
Lost stuff like that.
what was that cost you said?
Exhaust.
Oh, exhaust. Yeah. Well, that's easy. We'll
Yeah.
figure that out. I don't
Just
know.
hood stack it. It'll be fine.
No.
No.
So
No.
I'd
So-
say
so right now, it's dumping out right before the holes in the floor, and then it reverbs off the fucking hatch.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's gotta be
It's
pretty
noisy.
terrible.
Exhaust should be easy, honestly, because you've got the four link, and I know you should. That's gonna make it hard because you can't put a muffler there. Well, you put the muffler in the very back,
Oh.
like
Oh, kind
underneath
of
where
like
the fuel
how.
cell is.
Oh, so kind of like how. Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. FM Jeeping. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Mark?
Yeah, how his is set up.
Oh God, I feel so bad. Yes, how Mark set up his muffler on the tail end of his like. I guess that makes sense. Or you could do like a JK style exhaust where it tucks up clean, like right up to the floorboards.
Yeah, that's
right
pretty much
against the
what
back.
it is. A bunch of people do it. I know that have four
Honestly,
links.
what I was
didn't know Mark
thinking-
had it set up that way,
Oh,
but I know
sorry.
Nick LeBlanc does. Sorry, Luke, I totally just steamrolled you there, but Nick LeBlanc does. Mark does, like you said. I'm trying to
Mhm.
think of others. It's a common thing to do because you have that much more space back there.
The only issue that I could foresee with that is due to the way that my upper control arms are set up and the height on it. I know that when I was testing it for total travel, if I want to go for using the actual like extent of the shocks that are on there to get that rear pipe through, there is not going to be a lot of room because of how high my uppers are mounted. So
Mhm.
there is realistically about an inch and change of room at the shocks being bottomed out to get over the top of that mount.
What if you run it right next to the unibody rail?
Can't.
Because the
It's in the mount.
Wait,
My upper
wait,
mounts.
what?
My upper mounts touch the
Yeah.
frame rails.
Okay, yeah, but what I'm saying is stay centered near the drive shaft. Once you go past the four link, have it turn left into the unibody rails and
Yeah,
run next
then
to the
that's gonna
unibody
hit
rails.
my upper mount, or that's gonna hit my upper arm.
Oh fuck, you're right. So you'd have to do it before. Well, what if you did it before? Just did like a 90
Yeah,
90. Because you think about it, your unibody rails are like you have space there. How close? Like there's no way that your axle's
Oh no,
going
they're.
to.
So the issue is going to be at the frame side. So if you go with a 90 into another 90, then you'd have to like dip it below. But if you dip it below when the axle droops, you're going to run into problems. If you try and go over it, because my mounts are so far into the passenger cabin, there isn't the height there. What I was thinking was just doing a simple like the what is it? The MagnaFlow. They make a 3.5 inch or a 4 inch diameter muffler that's like 18 inches long, and then just capping it and dumping it right before the mount.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
could
you
do
could
that.
definitely, or you could just side exit like a NASCAR and just making sure that like it actually pushes outwards. That wouldn't be that hard either.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming that once the sheet metal work is done, that wouldn't be that awful to have it come out right in front of the mount and just have like a little, like, not quite side dump, but like angled down towards the that side of the Jeep.
Kind of like how mine was before it got wrapped up into my drive shaft.
Yeah, basically.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be doable for sure. I think
Nice
that'd
and
be.
simple. It doesn't need to be fancy because we don't have emissions down here. It just needs to not be loud enough that I want to commit seppuku.
Mm. Well, if you figure out a muff, I'll figure out what we're gonna do, whether we can run it to the back or not. We'll have to do some testing. Um,
Yeah.
but once I know the dimensions, I'll just let you buy something, or I can just go to the store and buy whatever's on the shelf. But I can't
Yeah,
guarantee
that's
it's gonna
fine.
be quiet. It's
What
just
if you
gonna
just
be what it
do?
is.
Why don't you just
Well,
do a cherry bomb or something? Those are pretty
Cherry
small.
bombs, they're small, but they don't really quiet anything down,
It's
that's
better
why I
than
was looking
and they
at the
don't
Magna
sound good
Flows.
on 4.0s, in my personal opinion.
The only
I
way that the
agree.
cherry bombs sound good on a 4 liter is if you go with like the 18 or the 24-inch long one, so it's
I
long enough
disagree
that it.
because I had a longer one way, way back, and I hated it. Droned like
Okay.
crazy. Just wasn't the sound I wanted.
I'm thinking about that MagnaFlow, like one of the, or what was the other one? The SpinTech Race Bullet, where
Yep.
it's a shorty. They're kind
Yeah.
of loud, but they don't sound terrible on a 4 liter, and
Remember,
they're small enough.
we don't own Ferraris. They're never gonna sound great.
Oh, I
So
mean,
you just take what
the
you can
exhaust is
get.
destroyed after the first strip too. So I mean,
Yeah.
the sound profile just out the window. It doesn't matter. It's not like you said. It's not a sports car. Sound is constantly
True.
changing because the acoustics are being crushed.
Dude,
That's what
mine.
comes flat Stanley.
That's where mine is right now, right underneath the oil pan where it crosses over. It is probably, I don't know, I'd say about 2 inches tall. The rest it's just flattened out. It's so bad.
Um,
So
yeah.
what most are you excited about with that thing? Like what do you feel is actually gonna like make you better at building Jeeps by doing his Jeep, you know? Like what's something that like is gonna teach you something while also working on your friend's Jeep?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's gonna be interesting working around all of his four-link stuff because I'll be there someday. It's not that it's not in the budget. It's just not in. I'd have no reason to, but it'll be interesting to deal with all like the peripheral bullshit involved with that, so then I can judge when I want to do that myself, right?
Sure.
So the actual four-link part, like. uh, I'd say that's probably the hardest part, right? Because you have to do all the math to get that how you want it. If you actually care about the geometry and all that, and everything else is just like it's the last 10% that needs to get done, basically, minus the sheet metal.
Yeah.
The sheet metal probably adds about,
15 more
15%.
percent.
Yeah, I like that we said that at the same time. That we were on the
It's
same
like you
page
guys
as far as how much effort that's going to involve. I don't think it's going to be too bad. Jacob seems confident. He's more of a bodywork guy than I am. He was like, "Oh yeah, this will be easy. We can't do a tub like I was initially." He was thinking we just throw a tub on either wheel well, but because it doesn't stick out that far, it's pretty flat. He was thinking other things, and I agreed. We're just gonna chop it.
A tub would work pretty well if you
Mm.
cut the what if you cut the interior side of the fender like into the body and make your area available to have the tub. Granted, it wouldn't match with the exterior tube though, so I guess that would cause complications. But I mean, you could. It would just kind of be a pain in the ass. But then you'd also have to worry about the hoop, and then you have to worry about the coilovers, and then like I guess yeah, that kind of wouldn't work. Now that I'm kind of thinking about it.
Yeah,
Huh.
I think our best bet is just gonna be to kind of form something like a flat piece around that follows the outer tube That's going to be his fender. And on the inside, we'll figure out where that has to connect to the existing, shock mount and C pillar, because you don't have a
So
D
So
pillar area, and how that's
can
going to
I
be tied
just
in.
throw in what I'm the most excited to see?
yeah, sure.
What I'm the most excited about is I bent up some, in my opinion, fairly nice looking tube fenders that are going to get integrated into the sheet metal, I believe, is what we were talking about. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
um,
You want those on the outside, right? Not internal.
I
Yes.
don't want
You want
them
it to stick.
internal, but like I would be fine with cutting away the body line and just sticking them right in there and
Okay.
welding it onto the.
Oh,
But the part that I'm,
that would look nice. Sorry,
yeah,
that would look nice.
the part I'm the most excited about though is seeing the integration of that and then the exterior C pillar. Because we were talking about
Ooh.
putting something dropping down off of the top part of the cage into that to help tie the rest of it
Now,
in
I
better.
forgot we talked about that, but it's funny you mentioned that because me and Jacob were literally sitting there saying that yeah, it should get a C pillar or a external C pillar, and technically it's a D pillar because it's you do have all. No, maybe you don't. You're right.
I
Fuck.
have three.
Wouldn't
You only have
wouldn't his
three.
C be the B supports though? Wouldn't that kind of be a C considered a C?
Nope,
No, his
they're
B
not on
pillar
their
is
own.
just halfway. He just has one less
Uh,
pillar than a 4-door because it's a
you're
2-door.
you're right. I thought that his B connected to the main hoop, or his no, not the B. The B supports connected to the main hoop, but it doesn't. It connects to the B, the actual B
Yep,
itself.
and that connects to the top of the B.
Yep, you are
So I'm
correct.
excited to see that because that's going to be really nice to have a little bit of extra protection for the window there and a little extra security sense for
Hmm.
when I do roll it because let's be real, eventually that thing will end up going on
Yeah,
its side or on its lid.
it's support in the right spot for the outer halo. That was the biggest thing that I hated. Just the whole. It didn't even look strong, right? When you don't have that external pillar on an exo cage or a hybrid cage, it just right. If that gets dinged, you could rip
Yep.
your whole halo off because realistically, if it's pushing up on it, like it's just gonna rip those mounts off.
I
Or
guess
it's
you're
gonna
right. I
shear
never
the
thought about it
tube.
that way. Yeah.
Or if you push down in that corner in the very top, like in one weird spot, you're just gonna fold the edges in because there's nothing supporting it. The support is inside at least 4 or 5 inches. There's a good stick out on some of those cages. So
So is your plan to everything inside the shock hoop is going to be inside the Jeep, everything on the outside of the shock hoop is going to be outside the Jeep pretty much. You're going to like connect, you're going to make the floor go to the center like to the shock hoop. And then where the shock hoops actually are, that's all going to be exterior and you're going to connect everything else back to the Jeep pretty much.
I mean, we'll see once we have sheet metal and some cardboard to start mocking things up. What's gonna work best? I want to say yes, but there's also like a weird spot at the front of the wheel well that I think's gonna need to have a different approach taken because it's a lot of space that
Mm-hmm.
could probably be used for something other than just wheel well because I don't the wheel's pretty far back. That front section doesn't need to be like fully committed to wheel. So we'll see.
Oh yeah, because when he was stock wheelbase, he cut it to quote unquote stock wheelbase, give or take 5 inches or so. You cut that front section out to fit the wheel, pretty much, right? Or now
Yeah,
it's pushed back 8 to 10 inches. You were saying?
the overall wheelbase on that is now one, if I remember right, it's 1095.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, so it's definitely pushed back a decent bit.
Yeah.
Um.
I it was originally 105 if I remember right, or 104.5. So I pushed that rear axle back about 4.5 inches, 5 inches if I remember right.
Yeah, but that
I'm going
correlates
off of
to
memory.
that's still a decent bit. It's not like a 1 or 2 inch stretch. Like that's enough that it's
Oh
noticeable.
no, like
Um.
my rear tires get into my rear bumper, or just barely don't get into my rear bumper if I remember correctly. There's like a quarter of an inch of clearance. If I go bigger, I'm gonna have to trim it.
Oh boy. But yeah, I'm definitely excited to see that. That's gonna be pretty cool. I mean, the best part about it too is it's a Cherokee, so like even if it's not perfect, it's fine. It does its job, and that's all we're happy about. Like,
It's funny,
It's
Jacob.
gonna look nice. It's gonna look nice.
It's
We're
gonna
not
look
good.
nicer than the rest of the Jeep. That
That's
Jeep
what we
is
were
nice.
saying. It's like, there's no pressure because anything we do is gonna look good on this thing. No
Perfect.
offense. Like your Jeep looks pretty good from 10 feet away and on video, but when you're actually up looking at it, you're like, holy shit, this thing is actually a piece of garbage.
Yeah, but I mean that's all of our Jeeps. So you start getting into the nitty gritty, and you're just like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
I think
Did
that's,
you
that's
guys
most
notice the
Jeeps.
fact that the whole unibody is actually tweaked?
Yeah.
Next time that you're looking at it, look at it from behind and look down the drip rail on both sides. And I built the cage square and then I railed the cage at Badlands. So it's like really cocked. But then you look at the unibody and you notice if you look at the roof line, the whole thing is like tweaked. And if you look at the frame rails, you can see where they've got the buckle in them and it's tweaked too.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Mine,
So the whole Jeep is like
I noticed.
it's
Yeah,
beautiful.
I noticed something similar on my cage. The top driver's side is pushed up, and I swear it didn't used to be like that. I was looking at it sitting next to Jacob's red truck, and we'd both noticed. We're like, oh, that's not straight. It's like, well, I'm pretty sure because I was pretty anal about making sure things were fucking straight on that thing, or relatively straight, sitting in my driveway, and I don't know. I don't know when it happened, but it's not straight anymore.
I
It's
don't
a
know,
little
Graham,
crooked.
but you sure do hit that thing on a lot of fucking trees.
I know. I know.
True. True. It could be one of the two trees that have fallen on it now.
No, 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 no. I don't think it would have been me slamming the side against something or.
Was
something
it
of that
when you
nature.
went up the wall of death? Because you
No,
slammed
that
the
was-
full weight of the
Oh, that might have been.
Yeah,
it
you
could have
like
been that one.
the full weight of the Jeep hit that top left side, which
Yeah, but that was more the back corner. So
it
I don't
doesn't matter.
know.
It could still tweak it.
Yeah, it could tweak the
still-
front. Yeah.
But
So I also have to ask, what did you think of your stickies? Because I saw the picture of them sitting in your truck.
Well, they're still sitting in the truck. They should probably not be out in the weather. I think we're gonna put them in the back of Jacob's brown truck for now. We'll see what the plan is. I need to get them out of the bed because if I'm gonna get the sheet metal, I need to have truck
Some
bed
bed
space.
space.
So we're gonna figure out a temporary home for them. But I mean, they're pretty
They
clapped.
fit great underneath Luke's Jeep, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure they do. But Luke's Jeep is gonna be kind of moving around as we determine where it needs to be to work on stuff. I'm pretty sure.
nice.
But yeah, they're stickies. How much did you get those for? You got those for a deal.
Yeah, I paid like 8 for them.
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, there's still
The
a
fronts
good
are
amount of
good.
tread on some of
The
them.
rears are not as good.
Well, that's the same with my Treps. But now I can just heat the backs up, and
Mhm.
then those stick just as good as the fronts.
It's
And
ridiculous.
also for anybody who pays attention to my limited social media is the tires. We did 2 burnouts. That was the second one was the one we actually videoed, and those things just dump rubber on the ground, and it actually
Wait, were those your traps, by the way?
Yeah.
yeah they were my
Oh
traps.
my fucking god! Oh, okay.
They were like
What?
sticky, and there was a pile of rubber behind them.
Well,
And
you
also,
high
that
or
pavement was chewing them the fuck up. Like, the reason
Yeah.
we were watering it, if you watched in the story, we were like watering the tires, is because it wasn't really gravel. It was concrete, but really loose old concrete. It actually dug out the concrete underneath it, and it was just shredding the tires by the end of it. Yeah,
So,
I happened
Graham, were
to-
you in low or high to do that?
that was in high.
Oh wow, wow, that's impressive.
I guess that's a healthy
It,
4-liter
it took a little bit of practice. I did burn clutch a little bit, but I'm not blaming the clutch because that clutch definitely needs to be replaced. But yeah, when we were testing it, it was like because we had the line lock in the other way, which is how I'm gonna flip it back to, because the line lock only works one direction, and I was using it as I plan to use it as an e-brake. We wanted to use it as a burnout line lock deal, like you're supposed to, not as an e-brake. And apparently it doesn't hold pressure both ways, right? So if I flipped the switch with my foot off the pedal and then pressed the pedal, I was thinking fluid was not going to be going to the back brakes because it's locked, right? It's a line lock. There's no fluid. The door is closed. It can't get back there. That's not how it works, apparently. So fluid can actually travel and pressurize the rear, but when it's on, nothing can get out. So if you would put pressure on those, it can still get, or if you turn it on, put pressure to it, it can still get pressure, but it won't lose pressure. So it's going to work perfect for the digs and the stuff that I want to do with it. It's just not going to work for burnouts. So we flipped it just for one burnout, and it'll go back. I do have another one. I could just put both of them one way, one the other way, and I could choose whether I want to do burnouts or actually use the line lock as I intended. But yeah,
I think you should
You're
keep it for
truly special,
burnouts.
Ed.
well, see, my thinking was those tires are fucked anyways. I need new rear tires, and as much as I don't want to
Well,
spend money on new tires, because
You know,
I want to go
we
to
were
a 40.
talking.
Yeah,
We
but
were
even if I
talking.
do take those, Luke, I'm still gonna have a lot of reworking to do before I can run them. I'm not just gonna
Mm.
slap a 40, sticky
Do
or
it,
not,
bitch.
on my Jeep as
Do
it
it,
sits,
bitch.
because it
Do
won't
it.
fit in the rear fucking wheel well. It's too close to the front.
That sounds
I
like
have
a
to
whole
stretch
bunch
it,
of
so that means I
hoopla.
need a fuel cell. I need to change some other things around, and it's just yeah,
It
it's gonna
starts
take a minute.
piling on.
And my
And
front is
then,
already not clearanced well enough for the 37s. So if I put a 40 on it, I'm going to need to bump stop the hell out of it, or I'm going to need to cut the shit out of my bumper so it stops chewing the tire on the passenger side.
yeah, that
Like,
was one thing that I was talking with Jacob about getting done too. I was figuring out what you guys wanted to do for bump stops, and I was just going to order them.
on your Jeep?
Do the ones that I got. The little red butt plug looking ones. They work well. You can cut them really easily, and they're
For the
modular.
rear?
No,
I mean,
you
if
can't
you
use
unless you
those
want to do
because
cans, you can do
you want to
cans.
use
but
air bumps?
Probably not, because right now, if I'm being honest, I'm not really looking at spending that much money on the ass end of that thing. I already
No.
dumped a shit ton into it.
But I can get you dealer cost plus 10%. A
What
for
I was
kings
look-
too.
What I was looking at doing was I was thinking about getting it. Oh, excuse me. Wow, that was a bad burp. I was expecting it to and it didn't like happen, which was really annoying. It just got like that annoying feeling. What I was thinking about doing was getting some 2-inch dom and like maybe putting a plug in the dom with the bump pad on it, so
Mhm.
that way it could go into a can mount. And when I get the money, I could put cans in the back of it.
Well,
But for
here's
now,
the thing. I have some Pro Fenders that are sitting at my parents' house. And I'd be willing to let you use them if you either get me a set or when I need them, give them back to me, and we'd set them up.
That's
So
an option.
All right,
that's an
well-
option. I have air bumps that are just sitting, and if you're going to use them and you want to replace them down the road when I actually need to use them, because you're not going to be able to buy air bumps right now anyways. I guarantee you it's going to be a ridiculous wait time to actually get that shit.
In stock, baby.
Oh, you have them in stock? Okay,
we
well,
actually do.
we'll talk about pricing on that later, I guess. 'Cause, what am I gonna dealer cost air
Plus
bumps?
10%.
It's plus 10. Okay, so it's a little more than dealer cost.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
my boss still has
okay.
to make his money. You know how it
well,
is. But yeah, I can
Jesus,
fair.
Cody,
What
you should start getting some.
kickback? Oh yeah, it's already in the works.
Yeah,
We're not gonna say the
commission.
name.
That's what it is.
We're not-
Commission. That's what I was thinking of.
We're not gonna say the name of the company today because then he's gonna start paying us advertise revenue. You know all that fun stuff. But yeah, no, like genuinely, like if you need air bumps, I could get a price. Like that's totally fine by
All right,
me.
we can figure out something about that. I don't know if I want to go air bumps just yet, but I'm not opposed to the
I mean, you
idea,
should. You've got the
especially.
coilovers there. The next step is to just throw a set of air bumps on there. There's not
I
that
I don't
much more
disagree.
money to just do it all correctly, and then you don't have to touch it again. You talking about putting a stick with a pole in it and just jamming it in there and hoping it bottoms out in time.
Listen, have
you
you
should
seen the
do.
rest of the Jeep?
We could do.
Dude,
I know.
you
We'll
should get
do
a
whatever you want
C-clamp.
to do realistically, but
You should weld a C clamp. So do the little holder for the air stop, like the bump stop. Then you put your piece of dom in there, and then you put weld a C clamp to it. You know, like the circle slide you tighten down. Then put cans, put your beer cans there, and then you just replace it, dude.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. And then when we have to throw it away, guess what? The can is only a few inches now. Boom, problem solved. Bump stops
God.
for free.
can
So, like,
crushers.
I'm thinking, maybe for science we'd have to get some PBR cans and leave them full. That way it'd be like a hydro pump for one really hard hit.
Perfect.
See what the actual burst pressure is on one of them bad boys.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Wow.
Oh man.
I don't know how I would react if a can actually survived that.
You know what kind of blows my mind? Why are Fox bumps, air bump stops, more money than King's bump stops? How weird is that?
Supply and demand, my boy. Supply and demand.
Unless the travel might be different, but that's just crazy.
It might
That's
be.
It depends. There's a lot of different things you can do to bump up the price of an air bump.
Yeah.
Bump.
The different sizes, different throws, or not really. There's only two. I think there's two sizes and two lengths. I think it's 4.5 and 3. I could be wrong. But
2-inch travel to 4-inch travel.
oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I literally was just looking it up. That's the only reason I had an answer for you.
So I gotta ask, what'd you think of the rear coilovers, seeing them in person?
They're nice. They're a little smaller than I expected, honestly, because I look at my, not to flex here, but I look at my Kings at my parents' house all the time, and those things are fucking big. But maybe, Collins don't look that big, and in the Jeep, I think it changes. Visually, it just doesn't look as large.
Hold on. He said not to flex. Continues to whip his back out. He goes, I look at my King coilovers all the time.
Yeah, I stare. They're not in my Jeep, so they're useless. They're massive
I will
ornaments.
say Luke's coilovers looked bigger sitting on his hood than they do in the Jeep.
Well, I have to say I'm very happy with how the mounting for them came out and the Frenching.
Yeah, I like the way it rides too, honestly. Looking at it, the way... you don't have any weight in the back, but it seems like it's going to ride well once we actually have a rear drive shaft. Which brings me to my next question, which is, what the fuck do you want to do about the drive shaft in the back? Do you want me to...
Don't you already have an extra drive shaft, though, that hasn't been sent back to...
no. I have sent back my drive shafts to Adams.
You did? Okay.
Yes, I should have done that a while ago. It was just... It's been a couple crazy
I was talking
months.
with Richie about it due to the overall expected cost of this project and trying to budget for Roush, plus the fact that I've got a shooting competition coming up. I am planning on maybe just cutting the rear drive shaft and extending it.
Here's what I was thinking is you've got a flange in the back, which kind of complicates it. But if we get a flange, I can...
Well, there's a drive shaft with a flange that was supposed to have gone with the Jeep.
Well, there's a couple
Sorry.
things that were supposed to go with the Jeep that I need to get. I need to
I'm
go
sorry.
up that direction anyways, so it's fine. I got to get some stuff. We'll
What are you
put the
coming
list
down here
together.
for?
I've got to get the fenders, the
Oh.
tube fenders, and some other things, and
Did the Dom at
clearly a
least
drive
make it out?
shaft. Yes, the Dom did.
The
the
Dom,
2x2
the stickies
did.
in the Jeep. Wow, so you did pretty good. You're like
No, he got
50-50
most
right
of
now.
this stuff, and it was
He got
I didn't even.
75. It was
I got
25%
all the-
peripheral.
I got all the stock tube Optogram, I got the stickies, I got the rims, I got the Jeep, I got the welder, I got the gas bottle for the welder. I just forgot a couple of the small stuff for the Jeep.
And I didn't even realize it till like after, and you had left, and that's when I called you, right? Because I was like,
Yeah.
shit, did we leave that stuff in the truck? But no, I felt better once it was. No, I didn't even get it. I am excited to use that welder though. Sean is coming by Thursday. I got to double check with him, make sure that still works. But he's gonna wire us up for 220, and then I will be using a non 110 welder, which is gonna be odd. I don't know if I can handle that power. I'm so used to dealing with underpowered welders and just making it work, and I don't know what I'm gonna be. I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself with a welder that can actually penetrate.
You'll be enjoying
3/16.
yourself, Grant.
I'm sure. I like a.
It's definitely going to be a fun experience because that welder doesn't end up hitting the duty cycle, even welding 1/4 inch. For the majority of the time that you're going to use it, you'll notice after like 45 minutes of welding 1/4 inch that it starts getting close to it, but realistically, you're not going to be welding that long in one pass. It's pretty quick to like bounce back. So
Yeah.
I've never actually really like noticed it except for when I've been doing axles. Like with Cody's axles, I started to notice on the long passes that it was happier if I had a cigarette after doing one side and let it cool and then bounce over to the other, but it's not nearly like a 140.
Yeah. No, my 140 is weird because it never like. It's like it hits the duty cycle, but it won't be obvious about it. It'll be welding totally fine and just slowly degrade, and then all of a sudden it'll just be boom, like you're not welding well at all anymore. And I'm not a welder. I don't plan on ever doing anything professionally welding wise. I just make things that don't break. I haven't had very many things break at the weld. I'm proud of that, considering I'm only using the 110. But I will say that thing hits the duty cycle really quick, and it's not immediately noticeable. But now that I've used the thing for 3-4 years, it's like it starts welding slightly shitty, and you're like, okay, I just got to sit here and wait for 15 minutes while it cools down, and then I'll be back to normal. But it's subtle. It wasn't something I immediately noticed.
Just put it in an ice bucket.
Because that's what all electronics love. Dunk them in water.
Like
it's great.
Or just like a temperature shock. Let's take all these really hot parts and just freeze them real quick.
It's fine.
Funny story on that. I cracked the weld on one of my coffee mugs because I threw it in the freezer.
Wait, there's welds on your fucking coffee mug.
Yeah.
Well,
They
metal coffee mug.
yeah.
What the fuck?
They seam weld it because they're just sheet metal that gets rolled. So I had thrown it in the freezer and then I had dumped hot coffee in it and it just split the weld. And it was kind of funny because it made like a really nice zipper sound as it went.
Oh, wait, why would you put okay. Oh my god, why did you put... Did you
Iced
just say you put
coffee
I thought you just said you put a metal coffee mug in the microwave.
in the freezer.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes more sense now. Dude, I literally my brain started exploding for a second.
I might have said microwave because I'm shot. I went hiking today and then I went shooting and then, yeah. But I definitely meant to say freezer if I didn't say freezer, but it ended up in the freezer because I was making iced coffee. So I have like these steel mugs and you can throw them in the freezer and they get like frozen just like a chilled beer mug. Well, I dumped hot coffee into it with ice cubes in it and it just like split the seam.
Aren't you
I'm a
supposed to...
retard.
Aren't you supposed to use a spoon? I know this is totally off topic. It's literally the off topic off road podcast. You're supposed to put a spoon in there and then let the hot coffee hit the spoon first and let the air, like as it goes around the spoon, it like cools it enough. But it is what it is.
Probably, but I'm autistic,
I've never heard of that.
so I wasn't paying attention.
Well, you weren't a barista.
Are you a barista?
I know.
Fuck no, but I pretend to be.
Only on Wednesdays. And if Maurice is working.
Maurice?
Yeah, that's Caitlin's alter ego.
Oh, that.
So
Oh,
back
shit.
to the topic. You know, I'm very happy that the Jeep's there because like it really sucks not having it. I've mentioned this on like ever since I got down here. It sucks not being even around my Jeep, but to like see that progress is gonna start on it is really cool. And it's the tail end of a huge project that had a shit ton of planning going into it. Um,
The shop looks so fucking weird without it, though.
I gotta imagine.
Like,
Um,
dear fucking God.
so like
um, go ahead, sorry.
now that I've kind of proverbially passed the torch on this, Graham, how are you like planning to get into it? Like, is there any? I think we might have touched on it a little bit, but like, is there any areas that you want to attack first? Because like in my mind, I'm thinking it would probably make sense to finish the tube work that we had talked about and
Yeah, I
then
think
go from there.
sort of. I agree, but because I don't have the tube fenders yet, it may be other, just some miscellaneous stuff going in first. Like maybe we'll figure out exhaust or the bump stop situation, like you mentioned, because those are things that don't affect the sheet metal, or they shouldn't affect the sheet metal, and they shouldn't affect the tube work at all. And
Or
since I
the
don't have all the
electrical.
tube, and I don't have any sheet metal right now, I'm planning on getting it end of this week once I empty my truck bed. Um, then we can start looking into those things. I'm thinking the sheet metal goes in last because when I did my 205 and stuff, it was definitely helpful not having to work around, the full floor until everything else was done. But at the same time, that also can make it not that there's any it it sort of messed me up on the 205 because I installed everything totally. I like the transfer case went in, everything was built around the transfer case, not the other way around. I feel like if I had built it more around the flooring and then the transfer case had been slotted in, it would have been easier to remove. Currently an issue because I have to pull that out to figure out what's going on with my shift collar, shift fork. I think I can do it, but it could have been easier if I had done it the other way around.
Who
But
has a? None of you own a dog. Whose dog am I hearing?
I was actually just messaging you, Cody. It's my sister's dog.
Oh, bro, I'm like, I know none of you guys have dogs, so I'm like, who's harboring a dog right now?
that would be
Which
Richie.
fugitive is harboring the dog?
Give me a timestamp, and I'll just cut this section out. The dog barking is not a big deal. It wasn't that loud.
We had an issue with the dog barking and had to cut. I totally forget where I left off, but I remember I was talking about transfer cases and pulling the 205 after the sheet metal, so we'll just continue there. Um, I think it would have been easier had I built the flooring and then done the transfer case because it would have been more oriented around installing the transfer case easier and not installing the floor over the transfer case because I could have just wrapped the 205 in metal and it wouldn't affect me at that time until I have to take it out and then I have to cut all that off.
Yeah,
So
and like one minor point that I do want to stress is if there is any way to make it so that I can actually get to my upper control arm mounts, to unbolt and rebolt them, because I'm sure that at some point in my Jeep's life, especially after I buy a place and whatnot, I'm probably gonna end up pulling that rear suspension to do something else. Not like rebuild the rear suspension, because I'm pretty confident I got the numbers right, but like repaint the control arms or go to aluminum. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I feel like it's got to be accessible enough, or like if I have
Well,
to
that
adjust.
should. I'm thinking that'll be accessible because my plan, I think, for that section of floor is, for anyone, if you're trying to visualize this, is the Cherokee floor curves down on the sides of the back seat area, but the center section is still straight. It goes straight across, I think. And where you've got it cut, which is a little bit, is it ahead of the B pillar? I think it's cut.
It's right behind.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is we may put a tube at the top point of where that whole
The brace.
all the tube work for the four-link is sitting, right? Everything has to be above those upper mounts, maybe a
Yeah, we
little
were
higher.
talking about doing a brace off of the top of the divider between the two little mini cross members to the
Yep.
B pillar to tie that in better,
Mhm.
and then so
Okay, yeah. Actually,
I'm
now that you
picking up what
mentioned
you're
that,
putting down.
it is a little bit behind the B pillar, so we'll have to drag it out a little bit. And then I'm thinking if we plate it, or sheet metal, work some sheet metal into that so it's sitting a little higher level with the back of the floor that does exist, it'll just be boxed in, and that'll give you
Yep.
plenty of space underneath to work on all that if it needs to get taken out in the future. And worst case, you could always just cut holes in the top.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah,
what
because
your.
Luke doesn't like cutting holes in his floor, man.
Oh no, he really does. He really
No, he
does.
doesn't. He hates it.
There's like a couple holes like for the for your cage that you had.
Yeah.
It's just like a square holes. I think me and Jacob were gonna, if we have time,
Yeah.
try and like
I would
give you an
appreciate those
actual
getting
floor.
boxed
You know,
in.
you know.
Yeah, that was like one of those things because we finished the cage the night before a wheeling trip to Richie's, and then I blew my motor. That was a
Yeah.
really good weekend.
Hey, I don't blame you.
Did
I mean, realistically, there was no way you were gonna weld.
I'm sorry. Did we really finish the cage the night before?
Yes, we finished the cage the night before. I was putting the exhaust back in it while
Fuck, I
Colin
don't
was
remember
sitting there. Yeah, dude, we got you plastered and then gave you a ride home.
Yeah, I definitely don't remember that.
Yeah, well, that
Yeah.
means you had a good time. Clearly.
But yeah,
Word
no,
for it,
Colin
guys.
was there, and he was helping me weld. Yeah, that was a good night. But yeah, that would be really nice to get plugged in or plugged up. I'm looking at swapping out my tires so that you could get those Nittos possibly. Entirely unrelated note, but it's on the thought process of what's going on with that build. And then I know that we were talking in the rear with the putting the bumper tie-ins in, and then tying into that rear bumper and building the light mounts off of those mounts that I had already bought,
Mhm.
and getting that all tied in.
So, do you
I
want
mean,
those to stick in more on the inside or on the outside?
what, the lights?
Yeah. I would
Um,
assume on the inside of the tube work somewhere.
What I had the idea of doing was there's like that gap between where the original taillight's supposed to fit and where the tube work goes with the way that I had kind of laid it out in the beginning.
Mhm.
It might need some trimming now that we're not doing the wider body on it that I had originally planned to do, but to mount the light in the diagonal in the old slot, if you will.
Gotcha. Yep. All right. Well, that's not too bad then. I thought
No,
it's
keeps it
just
really
one of those
simple.
like oval lights, like just
Yeah.
classic trailer light setup. Okay.
Yeah, it's super generic down here. Like, there are people driving buggies on the road down here, so that Jeep is going to be boring.
Make it cooler than bitch.
I'm gonna settle for the level of cool that it's at now, and we'll just continue to roll with it and see what happens to the nose because the nose needs to go next.
The nose.
Yeah.
You mean the front of it?
Just chop the whole front of it off at the firewall.
Oh boy, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, but
Bye-bye,
that's a
Charo
subject for other stuff. But I gotta ask because I wasn't there, and
He's
Kish
gotta
got in.
ask.
Yep.
Most
Gotta
questionable man in the universe.
How'd the ride go, Kish?
The ride was surprisingly better than the ride to Badlands. So that
Wow.
both surprised me and pleased me.
I call bullshit. How is it better to go to fucking above Boston than going into the beautiful wilderness of Vermont? Come on.
Well, in terms of scenery, it was way worse than going to Badlands. Well, in terms of how the truck actually performed, and just the general drive itself, it was way better going up to Graham. Not a single person on the way there or back even tried to cut me off once.
Oh,
that's
good.
impressive. Actually,
I got cut off like 4 times on the way to Badlands.
Huh.
But the truck just overall, it seems to like towing on the highway a shit ton better. Even with the extra probably 1,000+ pounds that was on the trailer, it was doing
easily
70, 75 miles an hour,
Easily.
no problem on the highway. It just did not like the fucking hills.
Huh.
Which
I mean, old 350 is old 350. Old 350.
led me to getting pulled over.
Oh,
this was
with
a funny
the Jeep?
story.
With the Jeep?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So every time there was a downhill, it would immediately go up a giant hill. So I was using the little downhills to just gain some speed and momentum so I could bomb up the hills a little easier.
I think I know exactly where you got pulled over. On 84.
No, it was actually on 90.
Yeah, I know what he's talking about. It's past 84. There's a couple hills that are pretty brutal.
Yeah. But the cop was sitting like right at the bottom of the downhill section, like behind a bush. So I didn't see him until I was like shoulder to shoulder with him.
Ooh, yeah,
I'm-
you don't want that.
I'm in the slow lane already, so I'm like right next to him. He pulls out right behind me with his lights on. I'm like, well, fuck you. I'm not stopping in the middle of the hill. So I just kept going up the hill. As soon as I get to the top, I immediately pull over. He comes over. It's like, what the hell? What's going on here? I'm like, officer, this is heavy. I didn't want to stop. But I mean, he was actually really cool about it.
Yeah, as long
didn't-
as you're kind of normal, they try not to fuck with you too much.
He didn't
Yeah.
even say that he was giving me a verbal warning. He just said to not go that aggressively to try to go up the hills.
Which, I mean, I think it was just was he parked in like the
He was parked on the side of the highway.
in the breakdown lane?
No, like he was off
just
the
like
highway
off the
behind
highway,
a fucking bush.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like 10 out of 10. I did not see him until I was literally right next to him.
Ooh, that's no good.
And then on the way home on 84, it was like 30 miles of a parking lot.
Yeah,
Rip.
that's typical.
I had my truck in park for 10 minutes.
Well, like just as you were hitting Hartford, pretty much.
No,
Definitely.
as soon as I hit 84.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of odd. I've never had that happen before.
Yeah, like it was legitimately almost 30 miles out of my 43 miles on 84 of wall-to-wall traffic.
Huh.
I've personally never had traffic that bad on 84. Except one time years ago on eastbound when Obama was going to Sandy Hook. But that's
Okay,
that's
that's
a totally
not a laughing
different
matter,
story.
but yeah, that's
Yeah.
I mean,
Anyways, that just derailed everything.
Wow.
But I'm happy that your ride went nice, because that going out that way can either be great or absolutely fucking horrible. There's literally
Oh, yeah,
no ifs, ands, or buts.
It was absolutely great as long as you aren't the
Are you
my rear
saying that
opinions deal.
I live in like suburbia hell, and that nothing's pretty and good over here? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
No, but
Yes.
your shop, Graham, is so incredibly easy
okay,
to get to.
Jacob's shop.
Oh,
not my
sorry.
shop.
First off,
Jacob's
no,
shop.
it's
Give him credit.
fucking. It's not that easy to get to. I don't know what kind of crackhead shit you're
No,
on, dude.
no,
I went down the 17 wrong roads.
Well, that was your fault. Sorry, you live in like
How?
bumfuck nowhere and you don't know how to drive through a normal fucking
Cody.
town.
No, so get this, Cody, right? I got off the highway. I went straight off the highway for, I think it was 3 miles, maybe 4.
Oh,
Wait,
Yep.
keep explaining it so we can dox Graham. Yeah, keep going.
I take a right. I'm at the shop.
Huh. Wow.
Sounds pretty simple.
Yeah,
It's not
Yeah,
too bad.
it was easier
the right
to
way.
find than my house.
Remember though, I also the last time I was there, I was with Buckley, and like, man's not the best with directions. So you tell him left, he goes right. So it's one of those.
Well, I
things.
mean, to be fair, the address that's always given out never brings people to the right place. It always brings them to like one road down.
yeah.
It's annoying. They're
Well,
like, "Where
that's
is
why
it?
I
Where is
just
it?"
stopped in the middle of the road and called you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Even like if I put in the the actual good address that is right next door to us that should bring you there, not down the street, it still ends up throwing people down the street. So I don't know. Odd. Can't
I'm just
explain
bad
it.
at math.
But I
Well,
mean,
you drove through Boston a couple times you came down, which was a problem.
Yeah, but I also went to your house.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
all
right. We
in
did go to the
all-
house last time.
It's a little
All in
faster
all-
that way, but it's not worth it. You're not saving yourself any time.
all in all, it took me like 2.5 hours or so, give or take a little, to get up there. But it took me almost 4 hours to get home.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm sorry.
Dude,
That's
that's-
brutal.
What was
That
it,
sounds
Graham? I left I left the shop at like 12:20 or some
Something
shit
like
like that. I didn't walk into my house until a few minutes after 4.
You ready to go and do it again in a month?
Hours.
Kinda. Now that I know a little bit better what to expect, yeah, I am.
no, just have
Wait,
Graham
well-
drive it down. It'll be fine.
The trick midday on the weekends. You just gotta not do it. It's
Yeah, well,
gotta
see
be like-
that's part of the knowing what to expect now. I now know to expect to hang out with you for like 4 hours
Yeah.
and then go home.
Yeah.
Which would have been fine. You totally could have hung out. I mean, you were like, I don't want to drive just yet. I was like, well, I gotta go to O'Reilly's. So if you want to come to O'Reilly's with me, and
Well, no,
just chill.
so my whole thing was, I was like running off of no sleep. So it's like, well, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna take a nap.
Not till
And
4. You
then
won't.
then I woke up at 5:30 in the morning.
Fun.
Nice. Speaking of which, how'd the trailer do?
Great.
Sweet, because I think
It-
I'm gonna. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say it also has a little extra rust protection across the entire front of the trailer.
I was gonna say,
no.
Yeah,
just lubed up, ready to go. Good for another.
along with
10
the front end
years.
of your Jeep.
Nice.
The front of
Um,
his Jeep, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm gonna ask that thing gets dropped off at Cam's soon.
Yeah, no. I was actually going to be talking to him on Friday about when best to drop my truck off to him.
Okay.
So you
Sounds
might even
good.
be able to do a twofer for that,
Yeah, just ask him about when he wants it. Like, I'm
Yeah, I'll-
expecting to do that in like 2 to 3 weeks. I'm trying to
Okay.
just like space everything out because bi-weekly pay is a bitch.
I
You ball
understand
for a
that.
week and then you're broke for a week.
Well,
Mhm.
that's just poor money management.
Well, I pay all my bills on the first week, and then I'm like, everything's fine, everything's fine. Oh, you want to go and do this? Okay, cool. Let's go drive halfway across Tennessee. No problem. And then I'm like, oh, hey, I probably shouldn't have done that the next week. But all my bills get paid on the first Friday. So it's okay.
Responsible, yet irresponsible at the same time.
But
Yeah.
bi-weekly pay is also extremely shitty if you know you're bad with money.
Oh yeah, yeah. My first job was bi-weekly, and I was horrible with it. So I'd like,
Same.
I would rip through money, and then be like, "Damn, I'm broke."
I graduated high school getting bi-weekly pay, and I was fucking terrible with money, but I was getting like $1,000 paycheck, but that was for 2 weeks. I'm like, fuck yeah, I got $1,000 in my bank. Let's go do shit. And then it's like I'm asking my parents for $5 for gas.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
do we want to roll on to the next topic, or do we want to say that one again? I mean,
No,
I don't know.
let's hit that. We got some
Alrighty.
time.
So something that I thought was pretty cool that Graham and Luke did was they manual swapped their automatic Cherokees. Yes, a lot of people have done it, but how often do people really talk about it in detail and all the bullshit? Not just, oh, cool, I have a third pedal, my dick's huge. You know, like what really went into it? Like, what was your guys' biggest hurdles that you didn't think that you were gonna have?
All right. Well, first off, thanks for buttering us up here. Realistically, the swap is fairly straightforward. Like as far as installing the transmission and dealing with the shifter, like all that stuff, the unibody's already cut for most of that. Installing that stuff
Mine
is
was not.
yeah. Well, that was your master. It wasn't cut right, correct?
It wasn't cut at all.
Yeah. See, mine had a little plug. I just removed the plug and put the master cylinder in there, drilled the holes, bolted it in, good to go. And actually, that gets into the harder part of the whole thing, and that was the unexpected difficult part of the entire swap, for me at least, was the pedal assembly. And Luke, I don't know if your mileage with this was different because you used an actual 97 plus
No.
pedal set, but
Nope.
I
My
used an
problem is still
89.
the pedals.
Yeah, I used an 89 pedal because it's all I had. The donor was an 89 Cherokee that was chopped to shit, and I had to deal with initially both the internal slave, which is just an absolute nightmare to bleed if you've ever owned one, and I had to deal with the pedal assembly, which was close to fitting, but the way the firewall on the back is angled was slightly different. So you had to like, everything was not quite what it was supposed to be. So everything needed just a little bit of modification. And there's still like a couple things I'm tweaking with it, but for the most part I'm happy. But for a couple years I wasn't. If my advice, if for people who were trying to do the swap, would be get the pedals that match the year of your Jeep, unless you want to be fiddling with it for years on end, or if you just don't care about the finish work. Like, it was totally drivable. It was just I didn't have the control I wanted on the clutch for what I do with the thing, so I had to
I'm
make
sorry
it work.
to interject, but
No,
I have
feel
to
free.
ask, how's the clutch in my Jeep? Because I know that whenever I disconnect my slave cylinder and let it sit for a while, the clutch becomes like an on-off switch, and then slowly it'll just come back.
Oh yeah. it
Yep.
was.
It's an on-off switch right now. Let me tell you.
Oh no, Graham, it is nothing compared to what it was when I pulled it out of the shop.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so I don't understand this, but my Jeep, whenever I disconnect the thing, like when I did the engine swap, it was disconnected and taped up to the frame rail. So for the first like 2 days I was driving it, it was kind of like on off switch, and then it just slowly comes back, and it's like, that was the second engine swap with it, so same exact thing happened with the first one, and when I had it disconnected because I was rerouting it, it was exact same thing. And I don't mean disconnected from the master, I mean just like disconnected from the transmission. It like has to work its way back into its normal groove or something. It's the weirdest shit. But
Yeah, I've never had that. Mine's always been if pump it Like sometimes it's push it to the floor, and sometimes you get something. At least with the internal slave, it just never bled right. And then even with this one, I've had issues with the crappy replacement master slave combos that I've put in, just not working
I got the
quite right.
Quadra Tech pre-bled one. It was like $120. Best money I spent.
Yeah, I just got the part store brand, and the most recent one I installed, I was an idiot. I installed it on the pedal side first and didn't install it on the actual transmission, and I pushed the pedal for some fucking reason and pushed there's a retainer that holds the plunger in, and it just shot that thing out and just drained it. So I was like, okay, so there goes the entire point of buying the pre-bled system that just works, because I just ruined it. So I just stuffed it all back together, got it all in the bottom half of the transmission, and then I filled it with fluid, and it was iffy for months. And then after I got it back from Colin, when he put that bumper together, it just worked. It never stopped working after that. It fixed itself.
Or maybe Colin fixed it without telling you because he
was bitching about it the entire time. I was like, you literally have to pump the clutch pedal for a solid 5 minutes, and then you'll have a clutch. I don't know what to tell you. And he bitched about it the entire time. I had to pump it when I left, and after that, it was good forever. Haven't had to, knock on wood, haven't had to touch anything. The only
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of hatred goes a long way sometimes.
The only other thing was, like, electrically, there's a couple things, right? You've got to wire the reverse lights. For me, I don't know about you, Luke. Yeah, you haven't done that,
Reverse
have
lights?
you? Yeah.
What
Well, I
are
did.
those?
And it's kind of a pain in the ass, because you've got to go and, like, splice a wire off of the transmission control module, because that's all controlled by the the position of the or the automatic transmission, if you have a manual computer and all that, or automatic computer and all that stuff. So
Oh, shit, that reminds me of something. I'm terribly sorry to keep interrupting, but since you got my Jeep there, would it be possible to put a switch in mounted somewhere around the dashboard for the neutral safety switch as an on-off? Because right now mine are just spliced together. I would like to unfuck that. If not, I'll do it when it gets down here. But I forgot about that. That was on the list.
if we have
Shit to
time,
get
we can
done.
do that. Otherwise, it'll probably just stay as a little button. That I was getting there too. So the neutral safety switch you have to bypass. Luke, you said you just have a
Mine
wire
is literally
going between the
spliced
two.
with like the there's a wire nut. I had just cut that and
Mine doesn't
spliced
even
it
have a
in.
wire nut. I don't know how it hasn't fallen apart yet. I'll be totally honest. I have the plug in there. I cut the plug. I took the two wires that needed to be together. I took some stripping off, or I stripped the wires down, twisted them together. They haven't fallen apart. That's all it is.
Beautiful. Did you at least electrical tape them?
Nope.
Oh, mine's got like a lovely wire nut with like electrical tape running all up and down it. But in my
Yeah.
experience, the worst part about doing the swap was mine came out of I pulled it. It came out of Kish's terrible Jeep. It was a
Yep.
black 97 turd wagon. That
But
was
the
the
interior
motor.
was nice too.
Nope. That was a
Nope.
different one.
Oh, that was the red Jeep. Never mind.
Yep, that
Never
was the Red Rocket.
That whole Jeep, Cody, was fucking shot.
Yep.
I have the header panel off that, don't I?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
You got the only nice part.
It ain't even that nice. It's all sun faded. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
so I had pulled all of that stuff and I swapped in the clutch pedal assembly, which you would think, 98 to 97, no big deal. Wrong. On my 97, to get my clutch pedal assembly bolted in, I had to unbolt the dashboard supports. There's like this big computer plug module thing that I had to undo.
Oh, you had to get rid of that? What? Or you had to
What?
move that
I
to
had
put
to
your pedal
undo
assembly in?
that, and then I had to wedge a pry bar into the dashboard support and push that over to be able to get that the pedal assembly in, all while laying on my back, holding that in with like my forehead and searching for the bolt holes with my fingertips while holding the pry bar, and it took me about 3.5 hours to get the pedal assembly in.
Yeah. That's definitely the worst part, is having to lay on your fucking back to do all that
Yeah,
and not being able to see what you're doing and not having enough room to get anything done if you're keeping, like, unless you're pulling the entire dash off to install the thing. It's such a pain in the ass. And like we had to weld. There was things we had to weld on mine because it was not the right style, right? We had to weld some pieces in place to mock it up so we could pull it out and finish weld it. And oh my god, there's just so much.
yeah, and now that I have a
All that
cage, I
insulation down
can
there
do
can
it.
catch on. All that insulation can catch on fire really fucking easy. So there are a couple times where there's like a little fire going on in there, and you're like not in a position to escape. So you just have to pat it out and hope you don't uh, burn
Burn yourself.
wiring and shit. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. Those were some tough nights.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't do mine now with the cage in there and the seat mounts welded in there. I had my seats out and I had a piece of foam down over the studs, and even then they made a nice like. The worst part for me was one of the studs was like perfectly in line with the small of my back. So like you're laying under there, struggling to push this stupid thing in, trying to hold it all in place, and then you've got a stud just like poking you right in the spine.
Yeah,
That sounds horrible.
it's not fun. And
So, would you do it again, though? Would you say that driving your Jeep standard compared to automatic, would you do it again?
Does it have the roll cage in it?
I didn't. I'm just saying, would you do it again? For the effort that it took, would you do it again?
yeah,
That is the defining point.
it's not a lot of effort in the grand scheme of things, and if you have the parts, it like it's not that bad. If you don't care about a check engine light, especially, like, you're good. If you do, you just have to find the manual computer that goes along with it. Or, I mean, ideally, if you're going to do the swap, you should have a donor Jeep that
Mhm.
is a very similar year, so you can just pull the parts off. That's the cheapest way to go about it, because everybody who's selling pedals and transmission by themselves usually want too much, right? You're never gonna get a decent. Rarely will you get a decent deal, at least around here.
Yep.
That being said, I did pick up another one. I was debating putting it in the J20, but I don't know. With now that I have the parts, like if I got another Cherokee, which I probably won't, I'd throw it in. It's worth it. It's a lot more fun off road. I hear a lot of people saying that they don't like an auto or a manual off road, and I think if you're not doing like full on buggy bullshit, like you don't need an automatic. Like you can
Yeah.
do everything and a little more in a moderate to hard moderate rig with a manual that you can in an automatic, and arguably with
I
more
think
control
also
in some
even with
cases.
more gearing, you can start doing some of the buggy stuff. You're just not going to be as like good
Pinpoint.
at it.
Yeah, you're not gonna be as
But that's
pinpoint
half the
accurate.
fun. Like I don't need to be like the best wheeler. I just want to have fun, and the automatic just you push pedal, you go forward, and you don't, right? There's no feedback. That's the nice thing about the manual, is you know exactly what it's doing, right?
Yeah, the only thing that I would say is like if I were to have to do it to this current rig now, as it sits, I would have a very, very hard time getting the pedals in, bordering on like
Your feet
I
would just be
just
in the air. You'd be fine. I have
I
faith.
don't know, because I feel like my ass would end up getting like stuck on that seat mount and it would not be comfortable.
Well, that's what Kish is for. He'd yank you out.
Yeah. I
Or he'll
would
just hit you with
probably
the
do it
hammer until
again.
you. Oh, sorry.
I would probably do it again. I wouldn't want to do it again to this rig in its current state. But I would do it again. It's fun. There's something to be said about like, for me, I enjoy it a lot on the trail, but I also enjoy it off the trail because it's like, just I'm gonna go and take my shitbox Jeep for a drive, and I can slam first, slam
Oh yeah,
second,
if
slam
you like
third,
slamming
slam
gears,
fourth.
you slam every single one almost every time you come from a stop. You're going to like 4 gears if you want to drive 40 miles an hour.
And I really like it because of how heavy my rig is. It weighs in chonky grams. I know yours is chonky as well, so I can pick the gear ratios better than the automatic was. I'm not saying that that couldn't be fixed maybe with a shift kit or maybe
Yeah,
getting
but
the
at that
shift kit
point,
or
yeah, if
tweak,
you're still
but
using AW4 and you're that heavy and you've got that much going on, like
wig out.
you gotta have the little manual switches, and at that point you're just pushing buttons to do the same thing. I'd rather shift a manual, and then you don't have to worry about it burning out with the clutches. I actually commented on a new Club XJ post. Somebody was asking what fluid to put in their AX15. I said I drove mine with 300
I
miles with
saw
water
that.
in it. It doesn't matter what you put in that thing. It doesn't care. Like realistically, dude, just throw whatever you want in it.
Yeah, I
Like
run
it's a
mobile
bulletproof.
10 weight 30.
As long as you're not putting too much horsepower up against it, it's a bulletproof transmission. Like
Yeah, if you
even
got a
after doing
clapped
that,
out, if you got a clapped 4 liter, you're fine.
yeah,
It's
even after
okay.
doing that, like there's no difference. That thing still like makes its weird noises and chattering noises that it's always done. My transmission, I think the case has 300,000 plus miles on it. I've rebuilt it once. I should probably rebuild it again at some point, but probably not going to because I have another one that I should probably rebuild that one. But they take the abuse. I don't have to think about it. Like if it breaks, it breaks. Otherwise, it's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
I will say that if I was building a buggy though, like even if it was going to be a Cherokee based buggy where I was just like chopping the whole thing up, think bleeping Jeeps buggy, I would probably leave it with an auto. For if I'm trying to run reds repetitively. But
Yeah,
if
depends on
it's
the
not
application.
designed to be a reds rig, it's getting a manual.
Yeah, I can see the want, especially if you're gonna plan to drive it around like as a like a road toy as well. Then the standard's definitely the way to go. But I think for like an off-road specific, I think an automatic would be the best bet because like you don't 100% need the manual
Yeah, an
off-road to have
automatic with a
fun.
with a reverse manual valve body, so you don't have to go like all the way back to get to reverse, right?
Yep.
Then that's the way to go on anything that you actually want to be competitive in a red buggy or to realistically that's the best way to go, but it's not the funnest way to go in my opinion. I've never
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yes.
mean,
I
granted,
agree.
none of
Um,
us are at a point where we've had buggies that can do that, so I can't speak
the
to it.
only thing that I
It's fun
will
for a different
also
reason, I'd think, right?
Yeah, there is something to be said about that. When everyone else is having a hard time doing something in their auto Jeeps, and you just show up, clutch dump it, get out, and like, yeah,
That
one
has
shotted with
definitely irritated me more than one time.
maximum violence on the first shot, and away we go.
Well, that's the other thing,
Um,
right? It's my favorite part is, I can just ask the audience, well, clearly second gear didn't work, so what should we try now, right?
my favorite is putting it into first, and like, yep, this is probably gonna cost me a lockout. Oh well, I'm gonna pop that. Although that is a major downside with automatics, they're a lot gentler on equipment. With manuals, just hopping on it and not having anything to like, no like hydraulic squish, if you will. There's
Yeah,
no like,
There's no buildup. When you hop on it in a manual, it's just
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like, I've watched Graham dump the clutch and just blow the lockout. Of course, the 37 is in the 13.5 inch wide hole with a 12.5 wide tire every time that happens. Or for me, I'm getting ballsy and, I want to get my front end in the air.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
always from a dead stop that those fucking lockouts go on me. I'm curious. We had to hammer my
that's
passenger
because
lockout
you're
in.
in a hole.
I
That's
know.
why you're at a dead stop.
I know. Well, it's because my spotters didn't tell me I was in a hole, so it's my spotter's fault.
Hey,
You're supposed to
your
drive
autistic spotter is gone.
You're supposed to drive by Braille, dude. Come on now.
I was.
I mean, that's kind of our
And
specialty.
Frank over here.
Learn Braille better then.
Yeah, dude.
Who-
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like-
really, who learns Braille better? It's just like, yep, there's the bump, and we're just gonna bump it. It's very simple.
You just read the bumps. with-
Yeah. So I think
course.
on that note, we covered quite a bit tonight. Anyone got any final thoughts?
No, I think we're good.
I say keep your metal coffee cups out of the microwave, and keep your slush boxes slushy.
Well lubricated. So on that note, bump it harder, and we'll catch you next
A
time.
double outro. What is this?
Frankenstein.
All right,
I don't
we're
know.
good.